An overweight boy decided to become a professional football player, but instead of losing weight, he doubled in size. Let's find out what happened next. Brandon Burlsworth was just an ordinary, obese kid. He lived with his mom, Barbara, and his older brother Marty, who people often mistook for his dad. Every day, Brandon ate chips and sweets while watching football games on TV. That's how he got the nickname Cheesecake. Marty started training with his younger brother in an effort to save him from obesity. Before long, Brandon joined the school football team, but the coach kept the boy on the bench, never allowing him to play. Then one day, during a game, one of the main players got injured. The coach finally gave Brandon a chance to step onto the field. Thanks to his weight, Brandon easily knocked opponents off their feet, but then he slipped and fell, causing his team to lose the match. The coach scolded him and told the clumsy boy he was no longer allowed to play defense. Brandon was devastated. That's when Tommy Tice, the head coach of the middle school team, approached him. He told Brandon not to give up and to keep training hard if he wanted to play for his team one day. Brandon also had the support of his mom, Barbara, and, of course, Marty and his wife. What's more, even his father, Leo, came to see his son. Marty wasn't too happy about that, since Leo was a former alcoholic, and that's why he and Barbara had divorced. The man asked to take Brandon for the weekend, and Marty was deeply worried about his little brother. Leo confessed to his son that he had once been a talented musician. He even played one of his old songs for Brandon. Unfortunately, his addiction to alcohol ruined his chances of success on stage and tore his family apart. Still, the boy loved his father. The next morning, Brandon woke up and saw that Leo had gotten drunk again. Scared, he called Marty, and his older brother came to pick him up right away. Brandon keeps training hard and starts showing real progress. He's being coached by the best trainer at school, Tommy Tice. This man sees huge potential in this ordinary, overweight kid. Brandon meets an even more famous coach, Mike Bender. The boy dreams of becoming an offensive guard for the Arkansas Razorbacks, but Bender isn't willing to take the risk, believing the protagonist's body type just isn't right for high-level football. Yet Brandon doesn't give up. His motivation is off the charts, so he trains from dusk till dawn. Before long, the main character earns a scholarship to a decent college. Still, Brandon doesn't want to study there, since his heart is set solely on a career in sports. At his high school graduation, Brandon announces that he won't go to college. However, after learning about his family's financial struggles, he is ready to change his mind. But his mom believes in her son and urges him to follow his dream. The youngster says goodbye to his loved ones and heads off to Arkansas. There, Brandon immediately becomes the target of constant mockery because of his excess weight. At 190 centimeters tall, he weighs 150 kilograms. That's 40 kilos more than the year before. Coach Mike Bender says that having 50% body fat is a disaster for a football player and, as a result, refuses to offer him a scholarship. Bender agrees to keep Brandon on the team only as a helper and a walk-on player, someone who may never get a chance to play in a real game. Brandon accepts the offer and starts training hard in hopes of one day becoming an offensive guard. Unfortunately, this is no easy task with such a massive weight. He shows the worst results on the team. Despite that, Coach Bender is impressed by Brandon's determination. Not only does he keep him on the team, but by the end of the year, he's even willing to give him a chance to play in a major game. Other players constantly mock Brandon. Behind his back, they call him a fat geek. The protagonist tells his mother that he won't get a scholarship because he's too fat. But his mom reassures him, saying, "He's not fat. He's just a big boy." Brandon gets back to training. Coach Bender tells the main character that he must lose his fat and build muscle, or he'll be kicked off the team. The youngster agrees. He cuts out sweets and fast food, trains relentlessly, and spends all his time in the gym. And his hard work pays off. He may not look slim, but now his body has more muscle than fat. On top of that, he's become surprisingly agile, fast, and resilient. Coach Bender is very pleased with his progress. Even so, other players continue to mock and humiliate the protagonist. Brandon ignores them and confidently delivers strong results. He can take down even the toughest players. After the game, a few girls come into the football players' room. One of them gives Brandon a sweet smile, and he gets extremely nervous. After all, it's his first real date. Well, not exactly a date, more like a small party. One of the guys decides to play a prank on Brandon, and instead of a strawberry shake, orders alcoholic cocktails for both him and his girl, Jan. After drinking, Brandon confesses that he probably won't get a scholarship and will have to go back home. When he finds out that the cocktails were alcoholic, he gets furious. To sober up before tomorrow's training, the youngster runs around in the rain. His friends wait for him in the car, realizing that Brandon didn't take their joke well. Eventually, they even join him in the rain, thus apologizing for their stupid prank. Brandon finally steps out onto the field for his first big game. He's wearing number 77. A large crowd of fans fills the stadium. Among them are Brandon's mom and, of course, his loyal brother Marty. After the game, Coach Bender calls Brandon into his office. The protagonist has officially received a scholarship from Arkansas. He immediately calls his mom and brother to share the exciting news. When Brandon receives his new uniform and helmet, he nearly cries from happiness. His friends are thrilled for him. The Arkansas team faces off against the Florida team. Brandon starts in the offensive line as the right guard. Unfortunately, he doesn't perform well on the field, and his team loses the game. Brandon takes responsibility for his mistakes and promises to do better. He soon realizes his vision has gotten significantly worse. Brandon has to buy the cheapest pair of glasses just to see more clearly. Soon, Brandon's father is hospitalized with lung cancer, and the young man comes to visit him. Leo sells all his belongings to help support the family. Brandon and Marty forgive their father for all his past mistakes and pray at his bedside. A few days later, Leo passes away, and the family gathers for his funeral. Brandon returns to campus and finds out that, due to his team's constant losses, the university has brought in a new coach. The protagonist dreams of making it to the NFL, but he knows that less than 2% of college players ever reach the big league. On top of that, getting there requires lots of wins, and his team barely has any. Brandon keeps training, even at night, and the new coach is impressed by his dedication. The main character promises that his team will start winning and make it all the way to the championship. Brandon tells his teammates they'll spend the entire summer together in the countryside, training every single day. At dawn, he wakes the guys up and shows them a new technique he's developed. At first, they're far from thrilled about being dragged out of bed during vacation, but soon, their own passion and hunger for victory begin to grow. Soon, Brandon's team, the Arkansas Razorbacks, heads into their big game against Alabama. Filled with motivation and belief in their success, the protagonist leads the charge, and his team finally claims a massive victory. Marty snaps a photo of Brandon and his teammates to capture this historic moment. From that point on, Brandon's team wins every single game, achieving an incredible triumph. They're even featured in the newspapers, and people ask Brandon for his autograph on the street. That's what hard work and consistent training can lead to, a phenomenal success. After another victory, the Arkansas Razorbacks are featured in a sports news segment. This week, Brandon's team is set to face off against Tennessee, considered the strongest team in the country and a regular top contender. It's a tough and intense match, with both teams performing at their absolute best. The score is almost even, and the outcome will be decided in the final minutes of the game. The Razorbacks are ahead by 2 points and on the verge of a triumphant season win, but then, thanks to a last-minute touchdown, Tennessee manages to snatch victory right out of their hands. Brandon is devastated. He's heartbroken and blames himself. It was his accidental collision with teammate Clint Storner that caused him to drop the ball, allowing the opponents to seize the lead. The coach comforts Brandon, telling him that despite everything, he still deeply admires him. After the end of the season, Brandon is named an All-American. It's an incredible achievement. He's congratulated not only by his family, but even by strangers on the street. In the third round of the 1999 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Brandon Burlsworth as one of their offensive guards. His new coach claims that Brandon has a bright future and an outstanding sports career ahead. Soon after, Brandon drives home to visit his mom and Marty. We see his car speeding down the city highway. Sometime later, police arrive at the Burlsworth home with tragic news. Brandon has died in a car accident. His car was struck by a truck. Marty can't cope with the loss. While everyone prepares for the funeral, he sits alone on a bench near the football field, remembering the life of his incredible brother. A stranger in a hat appears nearby. The man offers his condolences and says it's a terrible injustice. Soon, players from Brandon's team arrive for the funeral. They bring an overwhelming amount of flowers to the stadium. The stranger says there's no such thing as justice in the world. Some people live long but foolish lives, while someone as wonderful as Brandon left this world at just 22. What was the point of his brother's life? He asks. Gradually, we realize that this stranger is actually a hallucination, a manifestation of Marty's grief, pain, and doubt. Marty walks to the top row of the stadium, sits in silence for a long time, and finally stands up. He turns around to look at the flowers Brandon's friends laid on the field. He sees that all the flowers are arranged to form the words, "We trust." It feels like a message from Brandon to the living. This is the true story of football player Brandon Burlsworth. By the way, no one on the Arkansas Razorbacks has worn jersey number 77 since. That number will always belong to Brandon.